Hi everyone, my name is Sumeet and I'm the founder of Tilden Global Education Mentors. We are a premier education consulting firm. We are based out of Mumbai and San Francisco primarily, and we have today a very special guest with us, Muskaan Chandra. So Muskaan,
Hey everyone.
welcome to our channel.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Sumeet. And thank you for the introduction as well.
Thank you for being here, Muskaan. So I wanted to first request you to introduce yourself to the viewers and yeah, talk a bit about yourself. This, by the way, you guys, this video is basically going to be discussing Muskaan's experience through the MBA process, specifically the deferred process, and she's got a ton of admits, so she will happily share that with you and her secrets and her insights. But first, maybe Muskaan, you could talk a bit about your profile and your background.
Okay, definitely. So, hi guys, my name is Muskaan. I just graduated from IIT Bombay as an electrical engineer, and I have been into consulting for a while. So, throughout my years at college, I first tried out data science, then I had some consulting internships. I also took up leadership roles in college, where I was the chief editor of my college's student media body, which is called Insight. I also was really interested in the VC space. So I had a years of experience as an investment associate at Campus Fund, where we invested in student-led startups. And aside from that, I knew that an MBA would be a natural step for me in my career at some point in the future. I had a job offer from Strategy and which I will be joining soon. And I knew that 2, 3 years after that, I would want to go pursue an MBA. A deferred MBA seemed like a really good option for me. And I also had heard about the Tilden team and Sumeet through my seniors. So I felt that if I work with him, then I can improve my chances of getting into the MBA schools that I would want to get into.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the background, and thank you also for the commendation there. So you actually kind of, answered my next question, which is your decision about pursuing an MBA, right? So there are a lot of
Mm.
people from engineering and non-engineering backgrounds who are considering an MBA. Some of them have heard about an MBA, just the three acronyms, three letters, right, in the acronym, and then others have a bit more detailed understanding. So could you talk about coming from a technical degree like you do, right? Why
Mm.
MBA, right? What is it that is prompting your decision to choose applying for the MBA in the first place?
Certainly. So I think there are three broad things that I already had an idea about. And throughout my application process, I gained a lot more clarity on these factors as well. So the first thing is skills, the second is network, and the third is career acceleration. And these are the three things that an MBA provides for you, specifically in certain careers, but also in any other career you might want to pursue. So in terms of skills, whether it comes to finance, understanding nuances of, say, investing for me, or understanding nuances of leadership and so on, that is something that an MBA provides very easily. The second is network, where you have to understand that if you work in specific industries such as consulting, banking, anywhere in the financial space, or even later in the tech sector, the sort of network that you build is really important, both in terms of professional development and also in terms of how you grow as a person and the kind of peer learning that you get, which again, top B schools have a really broad network and a really exceptional network, which really helps you grow. And the third thing is career acceleration, where there are certain opportunities that you can access only if you have an MBA degree. And these are the three things that I primarily looked for while I was applying to B schools. And these are the kind of things that these schools generally provide.
Superb. Thank you so much. So, Muskan, could you talk about one big question that we get? And I think I ask this to like every person that I interview here is how did you know you were competitive? In other words, the most common questions that people come and ask us is, here's my profile. What do you think are my chances? Right? So, how did
Mm,
you evaluate now that you've gone through the process and are wiser by a year, right? Having gone through it. So,
sure.
could you talk about how did you now, if you go back to, if you had to go back in the past, what would you advise people about how can they self-evaluate their own chances? Like, what are some of the desirable characteristics that you feel can really make people stand out?
Got it. So, from a really broad level, in my opinion, the two top things that these schools are looking for is one, passion, and second, employability in the sectors that they are business schools for, which essentially means that for the first point, what they're looking for is, have you demonstrated passion throughout your college life, or say even life aside from that, in one specific area? And do you have the sort of clarity where you know that this is an area that you care about and you will use your business school degree meaningfully to contribute to that area. The second is employability, in the sense that have you in the past demonstrated that you have taken action to work for this area? Will you
Mhm.
continue to do so? And is that area relevant to business? So, for me, for example, my long term goal that I talked about in all of my essays and interviews was that I care about the LGBTQ community. That's an area where I've contributed throughout my college life. And because I'm also interested in venture capital, I know that there's a lot of impact that can be made in the space, and so I want to bring these two together, which I will be able to do through my B School degree. So, in terms of profile, I had demonstrated achievements in both of these areas wherein I had VC experience. I had experience I could show where I contributed to the LGBTQ community. So, essentially, you need proof that your goal is something meaningful and your goal is something that you've already worked towards, which is in a broader sense what you should be able to gauge through your profile.
Excellent, right? So I hope all of you guys who are listening have got a good idea, or at least a good template to sort of think about how do you really look for some of those things. What are some of the one or two standout themes in your profile, and what have you really done about it? It is basically, what you could start, and if those data points are very strong, then obviously you stand a good chance. And of course, you can always reach out to me or my team for an evaluation, of course. Now let's talk about challenges and apprehensions, because every single person across all different cohorts, whether it's the full-time MBA cohort or the default cohort, they always have this moments of doubts or apprehensions about their own profiles and stuff, right? So maybe
Mm.
Muskan, if you could share, of course, in whatever detail you feel comfortable, um, what were some of the things that you feel would be something that you were apprehensive about?
Definitely. So I think a common apprehension that comes up is the GMAT. And that was something that also ended up being an apprehension for me because I was also short on time. So within a span of 3 months, I had to prepare for the GMAT focus, which was the first year that it was happening. And alongside work on my essays, I was also applying to a larger number of schools. So the whole time crunch factor was there. And in that time, I also had to identify my recommenders, reach out to them, ensure that they get enough time to work on my recommendations. So I think time crunch was definitely a factor. Aside from that, when it came to GMAT prep, my journey was a little strange because initially I had very low scores. My scores went and improved towards the end on in the last 2 3 days, and that's when I realized that what you have to do for GMAT is continuously evaluate and update your strategies. And in the initial half of my preparation, I was focusing only on understanding the concepts, working more on the verbal section of it, also practicing quant a little bit. But what really helped me and the sort of breakthrough that I had towards the end was that I need to figure out test strategies and then continuously update them based on how each test is going. So
Mhm.
that was how I figured out the GMAT focus towards the end. In terms of essays, of course, there are apprehensions like there are multiple stories to share, or sometimes not enough stories to share. So, how do you decide what content to fit in, what content to remove? And that
Mhm.
is definitely an area where the Tilden team and Sumeet, you, of course, really helped me because you helped me see parts of my story that I had previously ignored or I had previously sidelined, where you could see the importance in it that I couldn't see previously. So, that was something that was really helpful for me. And aside from that, I think there are, of course, general apprehensions in terms of the profile. So, for example, my GPA wasn't very high, it was somewhere in the middle ranges. So, I knew that I would have to get a good enough GMAT score to sort of balance that out. I'm not, of course, aware of the specifics of how schools evaluate profiles, but something that helped me was increasing and improving academic performance. So I could show that my grades had, while being average overall, they had definitely improved from the first year and the second year. And my recommender also was kind enough to validate that. So those are the things that help me out.
Excellent. So I think you've kind of again talked a lot about the process and some of the things that you experienced. So if you were to, for example, look back at the process, Muskan, right, over the last whatever 6 months odd, right, that you've kind of been
Mhm.
active around it. So what would you feel, what were some of your major learnings regarding the process, and what would you potentially do differently?
Okay, very interesting. So I have one learning which is broader and something that is just fabulous about the process. And it is that it really makes you think about how an ideal leader would act, because you have to provide so many examples of yourself where you demonstrated leadership, you demonstrated personal growth. It gives you a lot of time to reflect and to reanalyze, if you could be there in that situation again, what is the ideal action that you could take, and what is the ideal action that a leader that would say be the head of a Fortune 500 company in future, or have like a really fast growing startup, how would they think? So it gave me, I'm really grateful for the entire process for putting me in that entire thought process, and I think that that's something that will help me in my career going forward. Aside from that, very process specific learnings would be that, of course, make sure that you know your strengths and weaknesses in advance. So, for example, you should know if you're a good test taker, then you accordingly allocate less time to GMAT prep, more time to essays. Or if you struggle with writing, then allocate more time to essays. So, being aware of that. Also, if you start early, then it is easier to identify what the gaps in your profile are, and then you can go ahead and work on them. That is not a luxury I had, so I had to go ahead with whatever profile I had. But if you start early in advance, then these are some things you can do. I think that would be it.
Okay, perfect, great. So the final question is, what advice would you provide to future applicants? Again, people who are be watching this are from diverse, undergraduate degree backgrounds, engineering, non-engineering,
Certainly.
everyone, right? So what advice would you provide to them?
I think one would be that the deferred MBA is just a great opportunity, specifically because the schools are also kind enough to waive off fees and things like that. And you should definitely apply even if you're unsure. So even in my case, specifically about MIT Sloan, it has a history of not taking in people. So I was very unsure of whether I should apply at all. And of course, with the time crunch factor, these decisions also become important. But it is important to just go ahead and apply and make sure that you at least give them a chance to evaluate your profile. So I think that is something that was definitely a changing point for me. And the second would be that if the process, regardless of whether you get any admits or not, is just a really fabulous process in terms of getting a chance to introspect on what you've done so far. And even if you want to go ahead and apply for an MBA later, it familiarizes you with the entire process of writing essays, talking to your recommenders, and so on. So I would definitely recommend it just as a positive step to take in your career.
Awesome. That's great. So thank you so much again. So this was Muskan, and of course, Muskan, we would like to conclude by maybe you sharing the different admits that you have received in various schools.
Certainly. So I have received admits from MIT Sloan, Columbia Business School, and Chicago Booth.
Superb. So there you have it. Muskan, who's gotten into three of the most desired MBA schools in the world, has shared her insights with you. Of course, feel free to look her up on LinkedIn. Definitely, you can connect with me. My name is Sumeet Verlekar. I'm also available on LinkedIn. You can visit our website. It's given in the logo behind me. It's www.tilden.in, and you can reach out to the Tilden support team at connect, CONNECT, @tilden.in. So that you have it. And of course, we'll give you the contact information in the description of this video as well. So with that, we will end the video. Thank you so much, Muskan, for being here.
Thank you so much for hearing me out. Really happy to be here.
Yeah, and absolutely my pleasure to host you. And of course, thank you to all of our listeners. All the best for your career. Make the decision which is right for you, and hopefully will be a part of your journey. Thank you so much, and goodbye. Take care.
Thank you.